All right, I think we're live. It has been a few weeks. I was on vacation. Lots of things are going on. So we are excited to be back. I apologize for this light beam over top of my head. I can't do anything about it for whatever reason.
That's your
Uh,
halo shining,
yeah,
right?
that's what it is. That's why I can't see the top of my head. Got my little halo over vacation. But we are excited to be back here and discussing things with you. So over the next few weeks, maybe perhaps, I think talking about getting ready for school is a good idea. I've had lots of parents voice concern over getting ready for school. There's the whole pandemic, and I had lots of kids in summer school this year. And are they going to be ready? And yes, there's a lot going into it, right? And so it can be a little bit stressful. And so I thought we should talk about this today, just kind of prepping for school. And so I think right now is the time you should be prepping for it, because we're about 4 to 5 weeks out for most of my kiddos. And if we don't start prepping now, the next thing you're going to know is going to be, the night before school, and you'll be like, oh no, because I'm right there with you. I do it all the time as well. And so this is happening. Let's start prepping for it. So, Heather, are you kind of seeing the same thing too? Are you seeing any anxiety or kind of concern maybe around getting ready for school?
Yes, from the parents, but also more than ever from the students. So many families have come to see us. The students have asked their parents to set an appointment for them because they're nervous about being ready. And that applies from younger kids all the way through those going to college. And a lot of times, we talked about this on other shows, but it bears repeating, is that in some cases, the pandemic definitely, it's caused some issues and some learning loss and so forth. Mm-hmm. But it also has revealed underlying problems that were probably stewing. And this was just sort of the straw that broke the camel's back for some of these kids. And the anxiety is sort of through the roof. And so, yeah, I'm glad we're talking about this. It is time to start now, not wait till the last minute.
And I love what you mentioned, because look, let's be honest here, this really amplified struggles. And whether or not you were starting to maybe see some of them, or maybe you were kind of blindsided by them, the pandemic really kind of magnified the struggles these kids deal with. And, I have some older teens that have really just voiced just the inability to the screen, and just how it, I saw everything from headaches to all sorts of stuff. Their anxiety started increasing. They felt always behind because they're struggling to focus. And so absolutely, if there were struggles there, they've either been amplified, or maybe you just found out about them last year. And so, one of the things that I'm suggesting to parents is, look, I know we have a few more weeks before school starts, and it's summer, and we want to be outside, and I'm all for all that good stuff, but starting to work on our bedtime routine and getting a little bit closer to what we would have during the school year, because I got kids that are sleeping until 10, 11 o'clock now, which I don't blame them. I was a teen. I remember that. It's amazing. But when you have to start waking up early again, that shift can be very difficult for them. And so I don't want them to struggle. So, just getting a little bit better bed routine. I would love to hear what you're also suggesting, Heather. What are, some tips and tricks that you're suggesting to parents?
Yes, I'm big on that bedtime thing. When you gradually move it back 15 minutes at a time, it doesn't feel like such a stark difference from it's this time, and then right before school, suddenly it changed by 2 hours. But have open conversations with your kids. We do not want to implant nervousness or anxiety that is not there. Are you nervous about school? Because then if they're not, they might think, what am I missing? This is something I should be nervous about. But say, how are you feeling about the upcoming school year? It's about 4 weeks away.
Open-ended question.
An open-ended question. It's still targeted enough because it's about school. And from that, then you can start asking more specific questions. You can ask questions like, what do you think you're going to be learning this year in school? Or I heard so-and-so is going to be your math teacher. And they might say, oh, I heard he's really tough. I'm so nervous because math is hard for me. And he makes you show your work. And when I show my work is when I start messing up. I mean, log what they're saying specifically But that's the first way to start. And then you know where a beginning point is and how to start prepping them with open-ended questions that you drill down more and more based on what they say. But you're asking specific questions like, what do you think you're going to be learning? What are you most excited about? Do you know any classmates who are going to be in there? And then you can start getting them together, having some get-togethers with classmates, because then that's one less thing that's unfamiliar. They're kind of honing their social skills that many kids have. Some kids really never had them fully. Some have sort of lost some of those abilities. It's just like adults now when they meet each other, even if they've been vaccinated, they're sort of like, am I supposed to shake your hand? Are we still doing this thing? There's just some awkwardness that adults who don't have these struggles or kids who don't have these struggles can sort of laugh about, but it's not funny if you already feel social anxiety, social insecurities. So, get information, find out where their locker is, do tours beforehand, find out who the teachers are. One of the things I'll say, because I mentioned college students, a lot of high school and college students especially college, but even in some high schools, there are some electives that you get to choose. And I would like to encourage families to allow students to have some flexibility on what they choose, because the ideal scenario is that we have certain classes that are competencies or strong interests that are really rejuvenating. And then you have some where they push them to grow. But if they are all like that, it can become very overwhelming. And so who are the professors that are familiar with working with individuals who struggle with attention, distractibility? Talk to people about that. This needs to happen now because classes will start filling up. But we don't want boredom all the time. Boredom leads to an emotional brain taking over and impulsivity, distractibility, checking out. But when I can be engaged, have a mix of engaged and those have to courses as they see them, it makes the ones they kind of dread less, they're more bearable because they have some classes to look forward to, and they're still learning skills in those classes, even if it's not something that is directly taking them closer to a life goal.
100%. I love that. So one of the two things I want to take from that, one, I love picking courses that you're excited about. So one of the things, I took 190 credit hours over a year and a half. I was burnt out. And so when I would try to read like another book on neurology or pediatrics, my brain was like, I need a break. So I just started reading books that I just enjoy, right? And it's rejuvenated my enthusiasm for learning again, but it's because I needed to step back, right? I had to be excited to read again. So I love what you pointed out. Especially if you're going to college and you have some flexibility with the coursework, make sure you implement that. That's very important. And just understanding that, it's okay to have fun sometimes, right? Even in college. Right. Absolutely. And there was one point, and then you were talking about something. I'm sorry, it's there. It'll come out in a minute, but I love what you were saying about that. And so one of the things I'm asking my parents to do as well is, look, I know the beginning of the school year, there's a lot of nervous energy there sometimes. What is this new teacher going to be like? And so what I've asked them to do is kind of plan little mini things to do on the weekend to kind of decompress, because there's all this compression throughout the week. And those first few weeks can be until we get into our routine, can be a little stressful. And so, hey, we're going to go-kart racing on the first Saturday after school. As just, hey, we've had a busy week. Let's do it. And prepping and planning some decompression, because a lot of these kids are coming in wound up, new classes, not knowing what to expect a lot of times. The socialization, right? A lot of us haven't socialized very frequently over the past year. You're right. Like even adults today, they're like, do we bump fists? Do we shake hands? Do we kind of semi-hug? What do we elbows? What are we doing here? And so, getting back into person too, it just face-to-face can sometimes be nerve-wracking as well. And I still have kids that are still very, very nervous about being in public. There's just anxiety. They're all, and so just, making sure that you have a little decompression after the weekend, because we don't want to build on that, right? We want to be able to enjoy ourselves. And so making sure that we do that. So sleep. Let's make sure we start bringing that in. 15 minutes is a great idea. I love that. That's enough to kind of get us in the general time frame. And if there's any availability with, changing our schedule or picking coursework that's exciting to us, I love that idea. That's fantastic. Even some of my high school students have some electives that they are able to pick. And so they're very excited about that. Weekend plans, just making sure we can decompress. And then I'm asking my parents also if, look, academics are important, but I want my kids playing some sort of sports, some gymnastics, making sure we had a whole year where we were not very active as a society, as a world, right? So just making sure that they have an activity where they can be physically engaged, and just how important, Heather and I always talk about how important that is just for development and just maturation of the brain and everything else. And so absolutely. All right. I just talked a lot. I'm out of breath to talk so much. Whew. Breathe, Brian, breathe.
But, as you have those open-ended conversations that are also targeted, it really does give you a direction. Sometimes also help them reframe. We always empathize with the feeling. We don't tell them they shouldn't be feeling that way. Kids must know that uncomfortable emotions are part of life. They're okay. And there are productive things you do with them. Sometimes what kids experience as anxiety, because it just feels a bit uncomfortable, is actually excitement or uncertainty. That's not the same thing as anxiety. So as they're talking, we're not telling them, no, you're not feeling anxious. If they say they are, we just say, there a similar feeling to that I've had before is uncertainty. I'm not really nervous about it. It's just that I don't fully know what to expect, and helping them understand the shades and degrees of emotions, and give them personal stories of times you faced something like that, what you did. What are some things, be preparing, what are some things you can do when you feel uncertain, but foster familiarity on the level you can. School visits, where's your locker, practicing the combination, meeting teachers, counselors, whatever is most pertinent for your child, getting together with the kids, helping them realize the things that are familiar so that it doesn't all feel brand new is huge. Being proactive, like reaching out to teachers with short emails. If you write an encyclopedia to them, even though every single word you shared is just awesome and super important, and we know that, if you want a response, it's probably better to keep it short. Hey, my name is so-and-so. You're going to be my son's teacher this year. We're so excited. We've heard great things about you. I know you're bombarded right now. I'm going to follow up with another email in a couple of weeks because I'd love to touch base on some things before the school year starts. You're very positive. You are not asking for a response. Have a very specific title in your email so they know what it pertains to. And when you reach out again, you're not feeling like a pain, which you're not, but I'm just saying you don't have to wonder about if it's coming off that way because you're being accountable and following up like you said you would. And finding out the most preferred mode of contact for teachers. For some, it's going to be email. Some are going to give you a phone number. And are there certain hours? Do they have office hours, or they're early morning risers, or they like meetings after school? But giving them heads up about things, knowing that 504 IEP types accommodations do not always get transferred to the next grade, to the next teachers the way we wish they would. But be positive and just you are a teammate with the teacher. Get that off on the right foot. Brief bullet points are good. Specific titles without high expectations initially, because teachers are gearing up with lots of students. Every single student's important, and I'm trying to help you know what will be more likely to get the best response from them. But yeah.
I love that. The one thing I wanted to highlight that I forgot for a second was I love that the open-ended question is in regards to positivity. Like, what are you excited about? And look, I have lots of good parents. They just love their kids. They want the very best for them, but they unintentionally ask maybe a negative, like, what are you most anxious about? And they're trying to help. They're trying to be the most loving parents, but get them excited about, or ask them questions they're excited about, because they answer, and then ultimately you can dig down and find some areas where maybe they do have some anxiety or trepidation or whatever it may be. But I love that you specifically highlighted excitement, because that's the best place to start. Get them out on a high note. And I get it. You really ultimately you want to make sure that they're completely loved and supported and all that, and you want to make sure there's no anxiety, but don't start that, because that can clam us up, right? What am I anxious about? Which led me to the second point of, Heather mentioned this, she didn't use this word, but prediction. Okay. And what she was talking about there was lots of kids struggle with prediction. Like, what is this new teacher going to be like? What is I'm going to a new classroom, or I'm transitioning from 6th to middle school or whatever it may be. And there's a new school setting. What is it like? I haven't been there. I haven't seen everything. And so, Heather was talking about prediction, helping them predict, like, this is your locker or this is your code, and go over it. And so there's less demand on them because they're more familiar with what's going to be going on. Go over their schedule, make sure they're familiar with it, make sure they know the rooms. If you can, take them to the school, go by, hey, that's going to be your math room or your classroom, right? And in doing so, it eases some of the emotional tension that can be there. Because ultimately, they may not they may be excited, like Heather said, but it comes across as maybe some, I don't know, I think I'm anxious, but it's a prediction thing, right? And so lots of kiddos that I see struggle with prediction. They struggle with prediction coming in, right? They may love me in the end, but when they come in and we're going to a doctor's office, I mean, what does that mean? Like, what is he? Is he putting needles in my arm? What kind of doctor is he? So you have to break those barriers. And so communication is key, and just helping them familiarize with their day, classmates that they may see, maybe teachers that they had last year that they get again this year, and just help that prediction really helps them go forward with less nervous energy or whatever that energy may be. So,
yeah. And along with that, and if they do come up with, I'm nervous because I've got to switch classes, especially if they have sensory processing, like visual spatial planning issues, that can be difficult for them. And so, but you're like, yeah, I understand why that makes you nervous. So you're empathizing. What are some good things about the fact that you get to switch classes? Remember, a lot of our kids are lacking some cognitive flexibility. And even though that is going to be a skill they need to grow and that they're nervous about, and managing the time of getting the book, you can even help them plan out when they're going to make stops at the locker based on where their classes are. But if they like novel and new, which a lot of our distractible brains do prefer, one of the benefits of switching classes is that they have new faces, new environment, new subject each hour. And if they have a teacher they're nervous about, they have them for one period. Not that I'm not saying it's the teacher's fault. I'm just saying there are things to talk through with kids so that you can show them the pros if they're just seeing the cons. Remember that the all or nothing thinking is not a personality trait. It is neurodevelopment. They may lack the flexibility to understand that there can be good and not so great within the same conversation, within the same topic, and help them see the good in that too. The things, because they might be blinded. They might have sort of a telescopic focusing on the detail of something that's nerve-wracking instead of the big picture of how cool that I get exposed to different teachers, different classrooms all day long. And that can keep them more engaged because there's a lot of switch up that kind of keeps those reward centers going.
Yeah, and you bring up a great point, because we have some kids, and these are different parts of the brain, that are hyper focused on something. They're microscopic in a sense, and they're just looking at the minute details of it all. And then you have some kids who are like, I just want everything new, just woo, they're ready to go. And love both kids, but they have different needs and different desires as far as that goes. So maybe your child isn't as concerned about the new teacher they're on. Rearrange your conversation. If they are like, I want new, and I get those kids all the time too. They're like, I want new. Dr. Brian, I need a new game. We've been playing this for a few weeks now. I need a new game. So just explaining the exciting new things that they do get to experience a lot of times can help these kids with attention and focus issues, right? Because they're wanting new, they're wanting novel, and it's a wonderful thing as far as that novelty seeking, or it can be. But phrasing it in a very positive way. Hey, look, we get to make new friends, new teachers, you get to learn all this new stuff, is a great way of phrasing it. Because a lot of times they think they're just going to go into the same classroom with the same people, and that's not always the case. And so bringing some excitement with the novelty can be a great way for those who like that.
Yeah. Another thing that kind of goes along with going ahead and gradually changing the sleep and also the screen time each day and bringing it down by 15 minutes increments is to go ahead and start working on the routine for what those days will look like. Get their input, have a visual schedule that helps improve predictability. They helped create it, so therefore there's buy-in, when the extracurriculars are, when study time is, et cetera, and talking in advance about how some days this will look different so they don't get upset when a day doesn't follow the routine. That's a problem for some of our kids who have difficulty with change. But also for kids who need a planner, I say get it now and start using it now for events for the rest of the summer so they get used to using it. That is, a lot of people think that what will keep my child organized and have good time management is to use a planner. You must have executive function in order to benefit from a planner. And know that most of the time, kids will choose a planner based on, it's my favorite color. It has a movie character I like, a superhero or whatever. And that's cool and everything. You can still customize it to their personality and interests. But when they pick out a planner, say, what made you choose this one? And I liked it because it was glittery. I liked it because it was blue, whatever. It has a sports suit on it that I'm a fan of. But will that planner mesh with the way their brain works? And so get a planner that meshes with the way their brain works. And if not, help them pick a different one and then customize the cover so that they like it. But have them start planning a family movie night, and each day putting down the parts they need to do to have it be ready for movie night. They're going to have a sleepover. What do they need to have done before then so that they start understanding I have a project at the end of the week and here's what I need to do each day to be ready for it. If they can have a month of practice with that before school begins, that is one less thing. And they have to figure out when school begins. A lot of kids, due to sensory processing, time management, organization, different types of issues, might put a due date in a planner, but they don't know what that means, and they don't know to work backwards from that so that they have the parts that go into the whole finished in time. And so that is just something that's super empowering to practice ahead of time.
Yeah, the planners is there's a little echo there. Do you hear an echo?
I did for just a second, but not now.
Okay. There might be a little delay or something, but the idea of a planner is fantastic for those who struggle with prediction. Having the day outlined is fantastic. For those who are very novel seeking, having an outline so that we can get to where we want, right? Like it helps give us some guidance because both kids need it, right? The kid who struggles with prediction, it's nice to know that at 9 I'm going here and all that works great for them. But also the individual who is woo and kind of all over the place, right? And we all have those kiddos, but having a structure for them too, like because they're ultimately something that they do want, right? They want to go play with their friends or they want to watch this movie, and so having something to kind of guide them to build that executive function and give some guidance to kind of try to keep them on track the best we can be very beneficial. Lots of my parents have used planners. I like the idea of customizing it. That's a really neat idea. But having a planner that helps guide their kiddo to what they ultimately want, right? Like I want to play, although I don't always encourage this, video games, right? I want to play with my buddy Tommy, right? And so they're like, okay, they have like a checklist and they know where they need to go versus if they have nothing, squirrel. And so having that can be really fantastic for them. But more importantly, it helps build connections in the brain. It helps build executive function, helps them plan and coordinate very tangible life skills that we need. And so that's the important part of it all. So love that all. Okay. All right. Well, this is where we at. We're at 25 minutes. I am trying to keep these under half an hour just because I know you parents are very busy. We're both busy. So, and we want to make this compact but very beneficial for you. So, Heather, any last minute thoughts? Any other suggestions that maybe I forgot to ask her?
No, I mean, I think we're probably going to be touching on this more, at least a couple more times before school begins. So I think keeping it short is good. Yeah.
Perfect. All right. Heather, how does somebody find you? They love what you said. They're like, I got to find Heather. She's amazing. Tell me, how do I find you?
At The Hidden Churn on Instagram or Facebook, or Brain Balance of The Woodlands, Mansfield, Katy, or Southlake.
Awesome. Make sure you'll follow those pages. She also has another podcast. Is it still on Mondays?
Yes.
Okay, and it's 2:00.
Yes.
Okay, so make sure you follow those pages. She has a great podcast Mondays at 2:00. Do you know what you're talking about on Monday?
Yes. This Monday, we're talking about when selective listening is actually not that. It's a sign of neurodevelopmental struggle.
Ooh, that would be a great topic. So make sure you follow those pages. Go listen to her. Heather's a wealth of information, so please go follow them, and you will learn a lot. If you need to get a hold of me, follow me on Dallas Synergy Chiropractic, both Facebook, Instagram, or if you need to call me and speak with me directly, 972-387-4700. All right, there are a few people watching, so any last-minute questions? If you don't get it, if you watch this after this is over, please still comment. We are happy to answer questions after this is over with. If you have something like, hey, you know what, my 6th grade is going to 7th and we're seeing some of these struggles right now, what would you suggest? Please comment, message us directly. We are happy to answer these questions for you. All right, I will give it just another second, but make sure you follow Heather's pages. We will be back on our regular schedule here at Thursdays. So please join us next week, and we are excited to be here with you, help you. So the next few weeks are going to be about school, preparing, all that stuff. And so, all right, I can already feel the tension in some of my parents and kiddos. So we're going to help you get through this time and be here for you. All right, if that's it, we are done for today. Heather, thank you so much for everything you do for the families in your communities. And make sure you follow her. She has tons of great information, and you can never go wrong with Heather's suggestions because they're always amazing. So, all right, we will see you all next week.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.